Hey there. Thanks for tuning in. You ready for another episode of My Bigfoot Sighting? Alright then, let's do this.
Seen a bunch of rundown no-horse towns where the church is the backbone, love's in the plow, and the five-string melodies grooving, with the farmland roads where the roots run deep, beyond the noise of the busy streets, where the songs of the South are soothing. When I hear the front porch picking down, home rhythm ringing out, I don't run from banjo music. Yeah.
If you'd like to be able to listen to the show without ads and have full access to bonus content, that's an option. To find out how, please go to mybigfootsighting.com.
My Bigfoot sightings began in 2013. To be honest with you, I am not sure whatever got me into the Sasquatch at all. I mean, it was actually before they were on TV and, very much. And, I seen the legend of Boggy Creek when I was a kid, but I don't know why, I was just on the computer one day goofing off and messing around, and I don't know if something came up or what, but anyway, I started investigating on the computer, finding out what I could find out about. And, so I started learning about different signs of them. And the thing that really, really intrigued me was the fact that all the Native American tribes from Florida to New York to California to the Pacific Northwest, all of them had a name for Sasquatch. And I'm like, that shows some credence to the whole thing right there. And I found the BFRO and started reading sightings on there and everything. And so then my biggest break that I ever had was I play music and sing and stuff. And we were practicing with this, my friend, and we took a break, and I said, Terry, I said, I haven't seen you for a minute. I said, I started investigating Bigfoots. And he goes, wow. He goes, let me tell you something. He goes, I knew this guy. He said he lived way back in the boonies down this gravel road. And he said when he first moved in there, he said he would see big clumps of hair on his wooden post, on his porch. And he said he was there for a week or two, and he said he started seeing them out in the front yard. He said they would just come out and wouldn't really notice him. And once he got used to, he tried to get people to come out there, the sheriff and all that stuff, and really nobody. It was so far out, and nobody would even come out there. So anyway, I said, wow. I said, how long ago was that? And it was probably like 10, 12 years before. And I said, where is it? So anyway, he told me. So the first time I ever went out there, I had my son and my grandson with me, and it was freezing cold. It was in February. I mean, real cold. And I wasn't really planning on getting out and kicking up in the woods or anything. So, but we going down the road, and I don't know about other people, but I get this, your spider single senses tingling thing. I get this kind of like, I can kind of look. And I started out with this where I could kind of look around and see, go, wow, this looks squatchy. And so anyway, I looked up on the side of the hill, and there was one of those, what I call teepee structures, where the limbs are all, couldn't have felt like that naturally. And I went, wow, there's one of those things. I seen it on the computer. And so anyway, me and my grandson get out, and this is really where a lot of the stuff takes place. So I'll kind of explain to you what it was like. It was like this gravel road when it went by a rock quarry. And that's another thing. I don't know if other people have the same experience, but a lot of activity that I know of happens around rock quarries for some reason. But anyway, so you first come in, there's a rock quarry, and then you probably go like 5 miles down this gravel road, and there's nothing there except for that house. So anyway, on the left coming in, there's a rise of maybe 40 foot, not too steep, just kind of gentle angle going up like 40 foot. And then there's the road, and then it goes down into a creek bottom. And so we walked to the down part, down towards the creek, and I started doing whooping that I'd heard on the computer. And all of a sudden, we hear like a, ah. So I start talking to him because this is the first time I've ever even heard anything like that. And so I started talking to him in normal, we're not here to hurt you or anything. We're just trying to see what's going on or whatever. I can't remember exactly what I said. And it growled again, and it sounded a little meaner. So anyway, we left, and we go back, and I go back home, and I'm thinking about that. And I'm thinking, well, you know what? What else could that have been down there? And I'm thinking, okay, well, I'm going to go back. So I went back by myself one day, and I started seeing some tracks. And they're on the tracks. When you're trying to track Sasquatch, they don't leave tracks. They try their best to not step in mud, to not leave any kind of sign that they've been there. But the littler ones screw up sometimes. But the big ones do too, every now and then. So I seen a track or two, or what I thought was a track. And so I went down towards the creek, and I started seeing what I know now as tree breaks. And probably like 4-inch trees broke off, maybe 12 foot up. And it's almost like, to me, it's like when you're walking through a field and you just grab a stalk and just break it, like not thinking about it. They probably use it as markers, but I could imagine them just walking around going, just breaking them. But anyway, I also started seeing that there would be like big rocks, and with like an hung rock, and then down below it would be like a nice place to sleep. And I seen all kinds of these. And what was weird was, and I never hear really people talking about this, but I always seen like long sticks, like a walking stick. And there would always be a walking stick leaned up against one of these things where they would, to me, I thought they would get up under the rocks. And, I got some hair from under there, went down, and I don't know how many real squatches you've got in here, but, they'll eat, they will push trees down and then come back the next year after it's gotten rotted and everything, and they'll pull the bark off and eat the bugs and everything. And they'll do that too on trees that are kind of rotted and still standing. And so I seen, that other one was when my sister came. But at one point I brought my sister back and showed her everything I'd seen. And on this one tree, you could see where they had actually taken a stick and dug into the tree, like using it for a tool to get to the bugs and all. And you could see their claw marks where they were pulling the bark off. And so anyway, and then so she goes, we go home, and then I come back again by myself, and I kind of look all around and everything, and I'm getting ready to leave, and I'm down by the creek, and all of a sudden I see these deer up in the clearing up on the side of the hill after you go down the creek and then back up. And I hear like this, I don't know, whistle, I would say, or something like that. Now, I haven't seen one yet. And and them deer go towards that whistle. And then all of a sudden I hear this biggest commotion. And what I think now, because I think this is what they do, I think they set up barriers and things like that to funnel deer. into a certain place, and I think they jumped out of the trees on them. Is what I'm thinking. So anyway, I'm like, what the heck was that? And so I'm standing by that creek, and maybe about 5-10 minutes later, I hear this walking coming down that ridge, coming down towards the creek. And Vic, that is the most scared I ever been in my life. It was starting to get dark, and it just kept walking and walking. I couldn't do nothing. I was just standing there. I don't know if they've got that pheromone, they say, that that'll put fear into you. I don't know if that's what it was, or it was just the fact that here I am by myself and this thing's walking down there, because I had seen enough things, evidence, to realize that they really were there. I just hadn't seen one. So anyway, it keeps walking and walking and walking, and I'm wanting to crawl under a rock. And it gets to where, and they'll do this a lot of times. It got to where if it took like a couple more steps, I would have seen it right out in the open, and it stopped. I'm not afraid of them. I've never had any. As a matter of fact, I hate when I see on, and I think there's different kinds, and some may be mean, but I think the ones that live around populations, which there's a lot of them, I think they're more like, they're not tame, but they've seen enough humans that, they're not, as a matter of fact, they just try to stay hidden. So, I've never felt actually afraid of any of them other than at one time. And so anyway, I go back, I tell my sister about that again. And so we go back, I take that back. I took my son with me, and we started doing the knocking at night. And Vic, I'm going to tell you, there was knocking on all around me. I mean, in front of me and back of me, to my left, to my right. And we knocked so much that I got tired of doing it. And my boy kept saying, "Dad, that's somebody building a house." And I said, "Son, you're building them all around us?" He goes, "Yeah, that is weird." And so anyway, so then the next time I come, I bring my sister again. And we go, and we made a day of it. Went down there and down at the creek and looked around and all that stuff. And then at nighttime, we're sitting there by my Jeep, thinking about leaving. And you can hear this walking again, heavy walking. And it is up towards the top part, and you had the sky, it was dark, but you could see up there at the top in the horizon, because we were looking up, so you could pretty much see anything that moved up there because of the sky behind it. And we're looking and looking, and I'm saying, it was close enough that we should have been able to see it, but we couldn't. And then all of a sudden, I look up there and I see this head poking around the tree. And this thing was like 10 foot. I mean, it was a lot bigger than I imagined that they would be. So anyway, my sister sees it, and then it turns its head and it goes and looks down around the other side. So I tell my sister, I go, "Look, sis, I'm going to, I always carried a little thing to knock on trees with. I said, I'm going to go over there towards it and knock on the tree, and you watch it and let me know what it does." And she goes, "I don't see it now." And I said, "It's right there." And I pointed that knocker, which was actually like a paper towel holder thing, except a little bigger. And I pointed it towards it, and it went, made some kind of like sound where it was like, afraid or startled. And it started walking up the hill. And so it got up the hill, and about that time, my son called me on the phone. And I said, "Bub, they're all over the place," because I had heard some like chirping and stuff that I didn't equate with little squatches at the time. But now when I look back on it, I know that that's what it was. So while my son's on the phone, this thing, and I don't know if it's the same one or not, but right up on the top of that hill, a little bit to the right, this thing screams a sound that I've heard people try to describe it before. You can't really describe it. It sounds like an elephant, a lion, a giant, a woman dying, all this stuff put together with just such a force that, it's undescribable. I've never heard a recording on that sound that was. So anyway, once it does that, I'm wanting to leave. I said, sis, we got to get out of here. Oh, that's another thing. When I get into a place like that, I'll always point my vehicle towards the way out. Like I said, I've never had any problems, but I always try to be prepared for it. As a matter of fact, several times after I would leave and I would be on the road, I would be like, gosh, that was something, and kind of like hit you after you're gone. So anyway, she goes, no, I want to stay and see what happens. Oh, the other thing I meant to tell you, my son heard that scream on my phone, and that kind of convinced him. But so anyway, we're sitting there, and I'm wanting to leave, and she don't want to. And then it wasn't very long after that, one screamed. You could hear one way back 2 hollers over walking. You could hear it that far away, and it kept walking and walking and walking. And it probably got like on the ridge that goes down to the creek. That's probably about how close, probably just about the time it crossed the creek. I said, sis, we got to get out of here. And so she agreed. So we got out of there. And so I started investigating where I was, the history of the place. And this is funny, Vic. Actually, if you went a little further than where we were, there was a gate, and it was owned by the University of Louisville. It was not a planetarium, but observatory back there. And so I went to the school and told them that I was, a photographer and stuff like that. And so they gave me the key to that place down there. And so I started doing the history. And the people that donated the land to U of L were anthropologists. And I got to thinking, well, you know what? No, let me restate that. I found this out before I seen that big one. I said, I thought, well, you know what? These are monkeys. They probably turned monkeys loose back here to study them and stuff like that. And that's what I'm seeing. And that's the sign I'm seeing. And then, of course, once I seen that big one, I knew that's what it wasn't. It wasn't that. And so one night I was there, and I seen them darting from one clump of bushes to the other on all fours. I would just get glimpses of them doing that, going back and forth. And it seemed like there was 2 or 3 of them. And I went back the next morning and looked, and you could see where they were going back and forth through the grass behind those bushes. And so the last one I really seen there. Oh, I forgot another thing. I forgot to tell you. I was actually taking fruit and stuff and leaving it out there. I probably did that for maybe 6 months or so. And also the story that I told U of L, there was this guy, I called him like a lurch type guy, that lived up in that house now. And he didn't like us being back there. I kind of think he knew and didn't want it out because he didn't want a bunch of people back there. And he was always trying to run us off. But I had gotten permission from the owner that owned the land outside the planetarium area, telling him I was a photographer, and doing butterfly counts and stuff like that. And so anyway, that comes up later, what happened there. So anyway, me and my son go there one night, nothing really too eventful happened. But when we were getting ready to leave, and right where I feed him at, there's a clearing, and then there's like a brush pile and stuff like that. And I leave the food back there, and I looked, and I had been seeing it for a while, like this stump that I didn't think that I remember being there. And I told my son, I said, Bub, I think that's one right there, just sitting there watching us. No, it ain't, Dad, because it was kind of dark. Oh, and another thing, if you want to piss a Sasquatch off, shine your flashlight. They do not like flashlights. They don't like light. So if you're going to have a flashlight with you, then you might as well not go. So anyway, I said, I think that is Bub. And he goes, no, it ain't. So I said, well, I'm going to walk over there. And Vic, I'll walk over there, and I get probably within about 20 feet of it, maybe. And all of a sudden, it just kind of makes a scream and just darts on all fours back into the woods. And so I told my boy, I said, come on, let's go. Because, I didn't want any, it scared it, and I didn't want any other ones coming. And so anyway, I get a call. This had been all going on like half a year or something. And so I get a call that night, or the next day or two, from the owner, and he goes, Dave, you were out there at night because the Lurch seen us out there at night. He goes, I know you weren't taking pictures out there. And I think he knew what I was doing, but he didn't say it. And so he said I couldn't come back there anymore. So that's when I started getting the key to the planetarium. But I'd never seen much activity back there. But I did see, and a real good friend of mine was with me. There was a rock, like a big kind of like boulder, and it had a footprint, a man's foot, and like what would look like a bird, three-toed, except huge, bigger than the man's footprint, in a rock, a solid rock. And I went back and tried to find that, and I can't find it anymore. But anyway, so that was pretty much like all that we could do right there, because we got kicked out. And actually, I heard since that rock quarry had actually bought all that land back there where U of L is and fenced it all in. So, but I think I may ride over there, sometime here in the future and see if that really happened. But so anyway, I was living in Louisville at the time with a lady friend of mine, and all the stuff that I would get, like I got what I thought was scat. I had hair, I had bones that I thought was tools that they were using. And I had all that in the refrigerator at her house. And so anyway, we end up breaking up, and I move out. And, with all the heartbreak and all that stuff, I never really thought about the Bigfoot stuff. I was like, just my life was upside down. And so anyway, I move on over to Indiana, southern Indiana, right across the river. And so I'm, after I get to feeling better and stuff, I thought, oh man, I needed my stuff. Well, come find out she threw it all away. So anyway, not to be mean, I guess I didn't, I actually forgot about it. So anyway, go for a drive one day, and we see this place, and I say, hey, stop here a minute. And I had that feeling that was a squatchy place, even though I could throw a rock and hit somebody's house from where I was. It was a little country town. And so I'm looking around and stuff, and I said, this just feels like, look how beautiful this place is and all that. And same kind of deal, except the hill's higher, and it comes down, and then there's the road, and then it goes down to a creek, and then goes up the other side with another hill, and like a little valley. And so I started leaving fruit there. And the thing about Sasquatch, they want you, when you're gifting them like that, they want you to know they're there. Like I would take a Tupperware thing with a lid on it with like berries or something in it, And they would actually take the top off of that, eat the berries, and leave it all right there. The bananas, peel. Sometimes they would take some of them up the hill, but most of the time they would just sit right there and eat them. And they eat them two ways. They either peel them upside down from what we do, or they just kind of like squeeze them open, to where they don't even peel it. They'll just squeeze it open, but they'll leave those there. One time I left water bottle there. They took the water bottle, drank the water, and put the water bottle back down, and you could see their thumb, the big thumbprint. I had all this forever, but to be honest with you, once you, I never wanted to do anything like take advantage of the fact that they're there, or try to take pictures of them, or I didn't share where I was. I didn't want to do anything that that would seem like I'm trying to I don't know what the word I'm looking for is, but extort them or whatever. I didn't want to. I wanted them to know that I'm just right here with them, and I'm just here to help. And so I was doing that, and I never seen none of those, except I would see their prints. And there was when I first seen it, it was like a baby, probably like a 4-year-old or something like that. So I kept feeding them. This went on for years, and that littler one, I quit seeing its tracks there where the bigger ones were. And I'm like, I wonder if they like kicked him out of the nest or something like that. I'm wondering what happened with that. And so anyway, I'm down there one day, and like I said, I talked to him. I would talk to him, up on the hill, and like, hey, I brought your stuff. Here it is. Just wish you'd come out here one time, and talk to him. And so one of these days I'm down there doing that. It was in the morning. It was a beautiful morning. And I'm looking up the hill where they always lived at, and they'd come down the hill. You could see where their paths and where they would go over a barbed wire fence. And that, the other thing I should mention, that's federal land right there. And there's signs everywhere, keep out federal land, be prosecuted and all that. And so another thing I might add, the guards that guarded the federal land, the sheriff, the county sheriff, the little city sheriff, all of them at one time or another stopped me down there, and I was honest with them what I was doing. And it had been to the point now to where they were on TV and everything like that. So really, because when I first started doing it, people would just laugh and ridicule you. But they actually was like, matter of fact, I wondered if they had seen them. So anyway, I'm down there on that road, and all of a sudden I hear this tree. It sounded like a squirrel jumping from one limb to another, except times 50. And I look up, and there's that little one. He's about maybe a 12-year-old, 10-year-old in size. And he had jumped from this tree onto this branch, and the branch was bare. And I could see him on all fours going on that branch. And then he jumped to another one, and I watched him jump back and jump back and jump back. And, I thought about trying to, because I kind of seen which way he went. But I thought, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to leave him alone, And when people hear something like that, if they haven't had a sighting or hadn't interacted with them, they might go like, man, how come you didn't go chase them and stuff like that? But it's like I said, once you know, and once you feel like there's nothing else to learn, and you want to let them be. I still take some bread, or they love bread, they love fruit, they love candy. I still take some now and then and leave it over here at this second place. It's only like 10 minutes from my house. Folks, I'll tell you this. If you have woods and it has water and it's connected to a bigger woods, it doesn't matter if you've got a town right there or anything. There is likely Sasquatches that come through there, even if they don't stay there. There's little bitty spots where I've seen where they'll come through, and but they don't stay there. But they'll stay there long enough to where, like, the deer, you'll notice there isn't any more deer coming out around in there. And I don't know if that's because they get them all or if they scare them or what. But the Sasquatches live everywhere. They're not just stuck up in the top of the big thick woods. They take advantage of every little bit of woods that there is. And people find that hard to believe. And I've had people out with me at night before and be like on the edge of a golf course or someplace like that. And they go, wow, how would they be right here? People would see them. I said, we're here right now. Nobody sees us. Nobody's seeing us. And they're like, oh yeah, because they're mostly nocturnal. And, another thing that I want to bring up is, if you look at a map, and go up from like the middle of Indiana, south of Indianapolis, and go all the way east and bring that down to the Ohio River where West Virginia, Pennsylvania, all that stuff meet, and on down into Tennessee, that to me is their migration. And I don't think they migrate so much like a tribe, but I think that the young males, they kick the young males out after a while because they can't mate with their sisters. So I think those Sasquatches leaving the nest, I think that's what people mostly spot when it's like just a chance encounter. I think that's what they're seeing. But anyway, if you look, you will see that there is woods connected from, there's a Hoosier National Forestry, Harrison National Forestry, there's Clifty Falls Park, there's all from Indianapolis down to Kentucky, and then on in Kentucky too. It's all you could walk and never come out of the woods. And if you look at a map, and as a matter of fact, if you're really interested in just trying to see sign or to see if there's Sasquatch coming through, you can look for choke points. Like maybe you'll have a great big woods or stuff, and then to get from to the next woods, maybe there's just a few acres of woods to get, almost like hunting deer. That's not always true, because sometimes they'll make a big detour if they don't feel safe. But anyway, and then they float across that Ohio River at certain parts and head down to Tennessee and on down in. I don't think they go much further than the northern ones, I guess I'd call them. I don't think they go much further than maybe Georgia. And I think after that, you have a different type, like call them the skunk apes and stuff like that. I think when you get down in the hot areas, they turn into a different kind, where I've heard people say there's like six different kinds, and I wouldn't argue that. And then you got the Dogman too, which I've never seen. But it must be real, because once you've seen a Sasquatch, you believe anything anybody tells you, unless you got a reason not to believe them. And anyway, back to the gift, and they would sometimes leave me stuff. One time they left me a big onion with the stalk and everything on it. And I don't know where in the heck they got that, because there's no farms or nothing around there. They left me a snake with its head bit off. They left me flowers. But anyway, back then I was keeping a journal and everything. And I just got to a point where I went, you know what? you know what, I've done everything, and I've, you know, seen everything that I want to see, and I'm just going to leave them alone. And so I haven't actually been actively out in the woods probably for the last 2 or 3 years, although I've been lately getting a hankering for it. You know, like I said, I'll leave them food and stuff now, but I don't go back and check, you know, like I used to leave it and then the next day go back and check and all that stuff. So I've kind of gotten out of that. And I know there's, if you're on this, if you're listening to this podcast, Sasquatches are real. I have no reason to sit here and waste you all's time and tell you about them and make stuff up. And there's actually people that I know that they're on their property and they don't tell nobody, and they really get to interact with them. And they want a relationship, or a lot of them do, because they especially the ones that actually live in a certain woods, you know, because some of them, it does seem like they're here 1 minute and gone the next. But the ones that actually live in an area, they like interactions with people. They're inquisitive to us as we are to them. I mean, they're watching us like we're watching them, or looking for them. And to think that you're gonna go up on a hill and yell and scream and shine flashlights around and see a Bigfoot, that's crazy. They're gonna have to come to you. I mean, I'm not saying you won't ever see one just driving somewhere and see one going through, you know, through the bushes or something like that. But if you want to see Sasquatch, you go camping in an area and fry up some bacon and, you know, sit there. And chances are, if they're around, they're going to come up to the campsite there at some point. But to go chasing them and stuff like that, I think maybe that's when they get angry sometimes, and people chasing them through the woods. But I've got to the point now where I leave them alone. But like I said, I've been having a hankering to go back out and, you know, make sure I could still have a relationship with those ones that I know of right up here. But if you know what to look for, you can go into a woods and tell if it's got Sasquatch in it. You'll see the bark off of trees. Probably. Oh, one thing I meant to tell you too, at that first place, the little ones would make little bitty teepee structures. You know, it was cute. They would have little bitty ones around, you know, where they had made their little structures. I don't know for sure what those are. I'm assuming there's some kind of a signpost. Other people have different opinions of what they are. You know, maybe a shelter or something, and then all the other stuff fell off. I don't know, but I know the little baby ones were making it. Oh, wait a minute. I got another story here real quick. Kind of further away from where these last ones are, down the Ohio River. We were riding around and, you know, drinking and stuff back in the country. You know, I'm sober 8 years now, but back then we were drinking and stuff, and we stopped at this place, and because to me, I had that feeling, and it's dark, it's pitch dark out. And so we're out in this field, and I'm drinking this beer, and somebody, you know, when somebody throws their can over into the woods, and it gets thrown back. And so it freaks everybody out. And we get in the car, and as we're leaving, I see one on all fours, and it looked back. And when you see a Bigfoot's eyes, there's nothing else that looks like it. You'll know what it is. And this one was on all fours and running across this field. So anyway, the next day, I tell my other sister, not the one that was coming with me in Kentucky, but my other sister, and I tell them, I said, look, they're there. Let's go up and I'll show you some sign. Because I had been there a time or two looking around and seeing some sign. That's why we stopped there. And so we go, her husband, a bunch of other people, well, like they're going to finally go see, because I've been telling them forever, look, these things are real, blah, blah, blah. And so they're going to go with me. And Vic, we go up to the hill on the road to go up to get to where we were. And there was no storm, no nothing the night before. And a huge tree is pushed over the road to where you couldn't drive up that road. So I wanted to get out and show them some stuff around, and that nobody wanted to get out after that. So that's another area that I used to go to sometimes. I never really got to gifting them there because for some reason I felt like those were not as nice, not that they would hurt anybody, but I wasn't familiar with them, and it was so far away I wasn't going to be able to take the time to get familiar with them. So I didn't really gift anything there. But so anyway, another good spot to look for Bigfoot sign is if you look at your interstate highways. Most of them have like a buffer of trees and creeks and everything that's maybe 20, 40, 50 yards on each side of the highway. And if they're going from, like, say, Louisville up to, somewhere else, east or west or whatever, they can go through those trailways, almost like a highway for people. They'll use those too. These things are much smarter than we are. I mean, and there's a paranormal aspect to them too. I remember this one time, the only time I ever put a camera out, and because it was just so close to my house, and they talked me into putting a camera out, and I was still kind of pretty young in it back then. And so me and my buddy went out and we put some beef jerky and stuff out, in this spot, and we hung the camera. And before we left, we, went, hey, held our beers up, and it took a picture of us. And when I got back home and we looked at that, once we took it back out and looked at the pictures, there was 50 orbs around us. This is the nighttime, all different colored ones, purple, blue. I mean, and it wasn't the screen, because the next shot wouldn't have those in it. And it was a Bigfoot area. So there's something to do, some connection with orbs and Bigfoots. And I had a couple of other weird things that I've had is, and this gets kind of weird. I usually don't tell people this, but it's the truth. The one that I seen walking away, that first one that I pointed a stick at, the reason I think it was a different one that screamed is this one, as it was walking, it got smaller and smaller and kind of like was up in the air. I had binoculars on it, watching it walk away, and it just kind of disappeared. It got smaller and smaller and disappeared. And right after it disappeared, that's when that other one screamed. So, and then one time I was at my house and there was this little red light. And I'm not saying, that Bigfoots can be little red lights, but I was sitting there and I was feeling bad because I couldn't go back to that place anymore and feed them Bigfoots. And I think they will connect with you. They know, they get to know you. Like that one place, I would always crank up some old Hank Sr. Whenever I was going, so they would know it was me. So they get to know, recognize who you are. And so I don't know how this happened, but there was this light in the room, and it took me a while to notice it. But when I did, I was like, man, why is that light there? There's no, I look around, there's no reflection to it, and it's just on this wall. And so I started asking it questions like yes or no and stuff like that. I'd say blink once for yes and 2 for no. And it was actually doing it, bleaking. And what that means, I don't know. I just thought I'd throw that in there. But there's a very, very spiritual, paranormal aspect to Sasquatch. Now, is that all of them are like that? I don't know. Because that one guy said, there's been history of people actually shooting them, and killing them. Now, how they could do that, I don't know. Maybe some of them can't get away. Maybe some of them can't, don't have the same powers. Maybe it's something they got to learn. But there is some sort of a paranormal aspect to the Sasquatches. And so the last couple of years, I just kind of like, just rested on my laurels, so to speak. I'll come on podcasts and stuff and tell folks my experiences, but I haven't really been out in the field for a couple of years. But like I said, I'm getting a hankering to get back out there and just make sure that they're still there, because these families will stay in the same area if it's a secure area that they feel safe in. They'll stay there for probably centuries, decades. So anyway, that's pretty much my Sasquatch stories.
Well, that's it for tonight's show. If you've had a Bigfoot sighting and would like to be a guest, please go to mybigfootsighting.com and let us know. Thanks for listening. Have a great night.
Seen a bunch of rundown no-horse towns where the church is the backbone, loves and the plow, and the 5-string melodies grooving. With the farmland rows where the roots run deep, beyond the noise of the busy streets, where the songs of the South are soothing. When I hear the front porch picking down, home rhythm ringing out, I don't run from banjo music. Yeah. The sound of a memory brings me back to the bluegrass playing on my dad's 8-track. His pickup man had been through it, getting through the day on Scruggs and Skags, bucking hay bales to those Tennessee jams. There's no other way that I'd do it. When I hear the front porch picking down, home rhythm ringing out, I don't run from banjo music. Yeah. Somebody coming backwards in double time, getting at the soul and the drumming low Kentucky style. Those are the anthems strumming out, country boy living. When I hear the front porch picking down, home rhythm ringing out, I don't run from banjo music. Pace of the city life drives me wild. The only tune is the cars rushing by, with the bass on the stereos booming. When I hear the front porch picking down, home rhythm ringing out, I don't run from banjo music. Yeah. Somebody going backwards in double time, getting at the soul and the drumming low Kentucky style. Those are the anthems strumming out, country boy living. When I hear the front porch picking down, home rhythm ringing out, I don't run from banjo music. Somebody going backwards in double time, getting at the soul and the drumming low Kentucky style. Those are the anthems strumming out, country boy living. When I hear the front porch picking down, home rhythm, ride chicken porch swing, mama's best sweet tea kind of sound.